Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
At trial, both the prosecution and the defense agreed that Danielle Redlick stabbed her husband in their Winter Park, Florida home in January 2019. But was Danielle a cold-hearted wife who wanted out of her marriage? Was she really scrolling on a dating app while she waited 11 hours to report his death to authorities? Or was Danielle a terrified woman in the middle of an abusive relationship who had no choice but to defend herself? Was she so caught up in the trauma that she didn't call 911 right away? The jury was going to wrestle with which version of Danielle was the truth when her trial got underway in 2022. In last week's episode, you heard about the long, tumultuous history between Danielle and her husband, Michael, who was 21 years her senior. Michael's friends told police they worried Danielle was going to hurt him someday by the way she threw plates at him and screamed at him when she had been drinking. Michael was seen occasionally with scratches and bruises, some said. Michael had been a well-respected sports executive who worked for professional teams across the country. He then became the Director of External Affairs and Partnership Relations for the DeVos Sport Business Management Program at the University of Central Florida. He reportedly wanted to settle down and live in one place to raise their 2 kids. And then there was, of course, the strange side note to this story. Michael had been married to Danielle's mother briefly before she died from cancer. Danielle was in her 20s, an adult at the time. But that means Michael was technically Danielle's stepfather at one point. Danielle and Michael connected after Danielle's mother's death during their time of mourning and eventually began a romantic relationship. Danielle and Michael had been married for nearly 15 years at the time of Michael's death, and they had 2 children together. Michael was 65 years old when first responders found him deceased inside their home. And now Danielle would go on trial for his murder. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 212, part 2. Today's episode is set in the towering downtown Orlando courthouse. It's June 2022. 48-year-old Danielle Redlick's trial is underway as Assistant State Attorney Sean Wiggins presents the opening statements.
January 12th, 2019, at about 7 in the morning. Mrs. Redlick is awake in her Winter Park home that she shares with her husband of over 15 years, Michael Redlick. A home that she shares with her 2 minor children. And she is doing what many of us do when we first wake up in the morning. She's on her phone. However, this morning is unlike any other morning because approximately 9 hours before this moment in time, that defendant plunged a knife into the shoulder of Michael Redlick, which would cause him to bleed to death in that home they shared. The home that she is standing in this moment in time, looks like something from a horror movie. It is 7:22 in the morning. And Miss Redlick opens up her dating website. and she views the conversations that she's been carrying on.
Danielle, Wiggins said, had been extraordinarily unhappy. She knew her husband had been unfaithful a year earlier. She filed for divorce initially and then gave up. While Michael refused to give up on their marriage, Danielle, on the other hand, moved on. He said in December 2018, she made a fateful decision to join meetmindful.com, a dating app.
This is the dating website that defendant opens while her husband is laid out dead on the floor.
Wiggins gave the jury a timeline for Danielle's phone usage in the hours after she stabbed her husband.
And what you'll see from these searches is that right around that time, right after she's done on the dating website, she begins searching for how to slit her wrists. This is at 7 o'clock in the morning. And you'll see that 7 o'clock turns into 8 o'clock. So now we're 10 hours since she murdered her husband, and she continues to Google how to slit her wrists. She makes it to a website. How long does it take to bleed to death after slitting your wrists? 8 o'clock turns into 9 o'clock. Mr. Redlick has now been dead in that home for 11 hours.
He told the jury how she finally called 911 and how she first said her husband died of a heart attack.
And what you will hear, because you'll hear that recording, is Ms. Redlick says, in the first words out of her mouth, the first version of events that she provides, standing in what appears to be out of a horror movie, I think my husband is deceased. He might have died of a heart attack. That's the first version she provides. What you will learn throughout the course of this case is that Ms. Redlick makes many, many statements concerning the circumstances of Michael's death. And although the details will change from statement to statement, often in very significant ways, Danielle Redlick maintains she did not kill her husband. Why? Why does Ms. Redlick say, after 11 hours in that home with that dead man, that she thinks that he died of a heart attack? The evidence is going to show that from the start, this defendant did everything she could to avoid responsibility for her actions.
He said the evidence will show that during those 11 hours, Danielle attempted to clean up.
Blood-soaked towels, mops soaked in blood, a 5-gallon bucket full of pinkish water, the smell of cleaning fluid striking the nose of the law enforcement officers and CSIs that entered that home. Blood in the primary bedroom shower, which you will learn because you're going to hear from a DNA analyst from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, is Michael's DNA, is Michael's blood.
Wiggins said Danielle was destroying the evidence in order to hide her guilt, wiping away the blood, deleting text messages. When she finally called 911, her story changed rapidly to explain why her husband was dead.
Let's return back to that 911 call that's in progress. I told you that Ms. Redlick provides her first story, that he died, that she thinks he's dead, and that she thinks it could be from a heart attack. But within a couple of breaths, we hear the second story. Ms. Redlick says that there was an altercation, that she went and grabbed a knife, that Mr. Redlick took the knife from her and stabbed himself. So now he hasn't died of a heart attack, he's stabbed himself, and she runs to the bathroom, locks herself in the bathroom, and comes out sometime later and finds her husband dead on the floor.
He said Danielle told the dispatcher, police, and anyone who would listen that she did not kill her husband.
And you will hear Miss Redlick incredulous that she's under investigation, unable to understand why the police would think she's responsible for what they encountered in that house on the 12th. And you will hear her plaintively say, "I did not kill my husband." So if it wasn't clear from every other statement, she makes it loud and clear that Miss Redlick is saying over and over again, "I'm not responsible for this." This is 6 days later. She's 11 hours to come up with her first story, and she had 6 full more days to continue to maintain this, all along the way, telling people that Mr. Redlick took his own life.
He said the evidence will show that despite what Danielle wanted everyone to believe, Michael did not harm himself.
What the evidence is going to show throughout this case is that Miss Redlick armed herself with a knife. She used that knife to cause multiple injuries to Mr. Redlick's body. One of those injuries was that stab to the shoulder, which enters, travels, hits these major veins, and punctures his lung, causing him to bleed to death on the floor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to remember that phrase, bleed to death, because it won't be the last time that you hear it in this case.
In their opening statements, the defense began with what happened that night at the Redlick home.
On the night of January 11, 2019, someone was very, very angry. This someone started to physically attack their spouse. They had rage. They were choking their spouse, smothering their spouse. That someone was Michael Redlick. And Danielle Redlick had no choice but to defend herself because she was afraid she was going to die. And so she did. The state is right. You are going to hear about the night of January 11th, 2019. You are going to hear about anger. You're going to hear about hatred. You're going to hear about rage. You're going to hear about infidelity that made Michael Redlick angry. You're going to hear about a violent attack in the kitchen. And then you're going to hear about Danielle Redlick and how she reacted in confusion, in despair, in trauma. You will hear that, yes, Danielle Redlick did stab Michael Redlick. And you're going to hear how she reacted in that shock, in that confusion, and in that despair. You'll hear that her reaction afterwards, she runs to the master bathroom in fear from Michael Redlick. And this is the room that she had retreated to the night before, where Michael Redlick had followed her and had kicked open that locked bathroom door. And when she came out of that bathroom, when she thought it was safe, she sees a trail of blood that leads all the way from the bathroom to the living room. And you will hear about her emotions on seeing this, and that she reacted in confusion because she had only stabbed him one time in the shoulder, and he had followed her to the bathroom. But you're also going to hear about how we got to this point, how Danielle Redlick knew and recognized that the danger that she was facing that night was different than the other incidents of abuse that had happened throughout their marriage.
Danielle's attorney, Catherine Conlon, told the jury how Michael had been Danielle's stepfather turned lover. The dynamics of their relationship were off, she said. The older man and his younger wife did not have an equal partnership.
Michael views Danielle and treats her in an authoritative way.
She said throughout their relationship, Michael abused Danielle.
You will hear about one particular incident where Michael punched her in the face, bruised her face, and chipped her tooth. It was so bad that Michael had to take her to go see a doctor.
She said the doctor then referred her to a dentist and a plastic surgeon. She described another incident where she said Michael pinned Danielle to the closet. She said Michael at one point was unhappy with his work, was drinking heavily, and was becoming very aggressive. She said he had a problem with erectile dysfunction, or ED, and that he was preoccupied with it. He was prescribed high levels of testosterone, which made him even more aggressive. She said after one incident, Danielle had to go to the emergency room. Another time, Michael lost control, saw red, accelerated his car, and if she hadn't moved out of the way, the car would have hit her. She said Danielle reported that to the Winter Park Police Department, but when the officers said they were going to interview Michael, she realized she didn't want to get him in trouble, and so she left. Conlon described to the jury how Danielle had filed for divorce, but that Michael had avoided being served the papers. He eventually moved back in November 2018.
He's sexually aggressive, he's physically aggressive, and everything is focused on sex, and the injections aren't working properly. And by the end of 2018, Danielle joins dating apps. They're only casual text and flirtation. She never meets up with the men. On January 10th, 2019, Michael Redlick discovers those texts with other men. And that is when all hell broke loose.
Conlon argued that Danielle stabbed Michael in self-defense. She waited hours to call 911 because she was caught up in a cloud of confusion and shock. She wasn't trying to kill him, she said, pointing out that Michael was stabbed only once in the shoulder. She was scared. She was traumatized. The defense said Danielle had been a long-suffering victim of domestic violence in their marriage, and no better witness could attest to that than Danielle Redlick herself.
So are you prepared at this point to make a decision on whether you want to testify in your own defense?
Yes, I will testify.
And that is your decision to testify?
Yes, ma'am.
The friends, the neighbors, Michael's former colleagues, the woman who accused him of sexual assault when they were teenagers, most of the interviews conducted by Winter Park Police during the investigation that you heard about in Part 1 weren't brought up during Danielle's trial. But one piece of testimony the jury did hear was the perspective of Michael and Danielle's daughter. We'll call her Jay to protect her identity. Jay and her younger brother had been caught up in their parents' drama for years. They were very aware of their parents' drinking and infidelity and witnessed their parents' explosive fights, according to Winter Park police records. When Jay took the stand at her mom's trial, she was 18. She had been 15 when her dad died. Her brother, who was now 14, did not testify. The cameras weren't allowed to film Jay's testimony, but Orlando Sentinel reporter Manavet Cordero live tweeted the court proceedings. Me and my dad were very close, Jay testified. She said her parents had a very toxic, very manipulative relationship. Who was the cause of that toxicity? The prosecutor asked. My mother, Jay said. According to Cordero, as Danielle listened, she wiped her eyes with a tissue. Jay testified that the last time she talked to her father was the night he died. There had been another fight in the house, and Michael was sad Jay had seen it. He kept saying he was sorry, Jay testified. He kept saying how much he loved me. That night, Jay slept at a friend's house and testified her mother texted her that she was dealing with some stuff here. It might be better to stay over there for a bit. Jay said she learned later from her friends that something bad had happened back home. Her mother never told her in full detail how her father died. The limited conversation the mother-daughter had about Michael's death went like this. I remember very vividly we were on the front porch, Jay testified. I remember her exact words were, The autopsy said he had a heart attack. That, of course, was a lie. For a decade, Sarah Zadovich had worked at the Orange County Medical Examiner's Office. She had performed about 3,000 autopsies, including Michael's. She testified about the injuries she saw when she examined his body.
So just starting up at the head, on the face, there was a incised wound, so something that's made with a sharp instrument. And then on the inside of the upper lip, this is just a drawing, so it's not showing, but it's on the inside of the upper lip, there was an abraded contusion. So a very small bruise with a little bit of an abrasion. So you kind of get like a scrape. Moving down onto the torso, there were some faint contusions or bruises on the chest, on the left side of the chest. And then also on the left side of the chest, kind of near where the armpit area is, was a stab wound. Just right there. And then on the left arm, there were more contusions or bruises. And then also another area of contusion down on the wrist. And on the right arm, another small contusion. And then on the on the left side of the body, on the torso, right there was a superficial incised wound. And when I say superficial, I mean kind of like a scrape or a scratch. So it's a linear wound. It's very shallow. It looks like a scratch.
The jury saw photographs of Michael's bruises on his chest and his arm. Dr. Zadovich was asked about scratches on Michael's left side of his body.
Now, you said that this wound could be consistent with a defensive wound. Could you tell the jury why?
When we talk about defensive wounds, it's, if somebody is under attack, whatever means, it's a natural instinct to protect the head and the body. And so the reflex that most people have is to bring their arms upwards to fend off whatever happens to be coming towards them. And so those are the areas of the body that would be exposed. So the forearms, oftentimes, they're up like this. That's what's going to help prevent the attack.
The jury also saw photographs of the knife wound. Dr. Zadovich testified that the blade penetrated Michael's lung. His chest cavity filled with blood, and it would have gotten harder and harder for him to breathe. One of Michael's veins was cut.
So with an injury like this, where we have a stab wound, where the vein has been cut and an individual is losing blood, approximately how long would that individual be able to walk around before they lose consciousness?
Yeah, that's kind of hard to give a number, right? Because we can't really study this type of thing. So we have to use observational techniques. So, and everyone is different. Every scene is a little bit different. So that's pretty difficult to say.
Mm-hmm. Could you give an approximation? Because I know you can't give an exact, but because you indicated that at some point in time there would be a loss of consciousness. So is there an average based on the studies as to when an individual, might start to lose consciousness?
Not particularly with an injury like this. In penetrating injuries involving the heart, there's a little bit more information, but for something like this where, it's one of the extremities, that's a little bit more difficult. In cases that I've had that have been with similar injuries, probably 15-ish to 20 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean that person is dead at that time. It just means that they may not be able to walk or communicate. They may be at that level.
After someone loses consciousness after blood loss, she said sometimes they can live up to a couple hours. But those are case reports, she said. She couldn't say for sure.
So in this particular case, doctor, did you come to a conclusion as to the cause and the manner of death?
Cause of death was stab wound of the torso, and I classified the manner as homicide.
Winter Park Police Detective Pamela Ware testified about what police found when they looked at Danielle's phone. There was a failed call that didn't connect with the tower. Around 11 p.m. on the night of January 11th, Danielle had dialed 911-911. She successfully called 911 at 9:28 a.m. the next morning, according to court records. The detective testified that she also went to Michael's office at UCF. She found what looked like a divorce folder. There was a paper with questions to ask a divorce attorney and an email Michael had printed out that Danielle sent to him on May 14th. Detective Ware read the contents full of metaphorical violent imagery to the jury. Here's what Danielle wrote. Quote, "Although my words may be cutting, they are only sounds. A dull knife compared to the sharp, disloyal, deceiving, phony, and never-ending selfish knife you continue to twist in my back, as if it's a sport at this point." But the defense argued that it was a metaphor in that email. That's not a prediction for a murder 7 months later, they said. Marcia English's son was the same age as Danielle and Michael's son. The two fifth graders played on the same sports teams together and were best friends. They wanted to have a sleepover after their upcoming Friday night football game. They made plans in advance with their moms. At 8 p.m., the night Michael died, Marcia and Danielle were both cheering on their kids at the flag football game. Michael was the team's coach. He was on the sidelines, just like normal. At the end of the game, Marcia noticed that Danielle seemed irritated and upset. Something was on her mind, Marcia testified. She said Danielle told her it had been a strange evening. Danielle didn't appear to say any more to explain why it was strange, and Marcia didn't seem to ask. Just as planned, the Redlick son left with the English family after the game and spent the night at their house. But things would only get stranger. Marcia didn't hear from Danielle until Danielle texted her the next morning around 10 a.m. The text asked her to please keep her son for a little while and that there had been a family emergency. Marcia said the boy spent all Saturday with the English family. On Sunday, Danielle called Marcia from a phone number she didn't recognize.
And when she called, what did she tell you?
She said, "Hi, this is Danielle. You've heard there's been where's an emergency?" And she had just mentioned Michael had passed away. I think it was a heart attack.
The prosecution also called Keith Gruen to the stand, who owned the dating website meetmindful.com since 2015.
You tell the jury a little bit about what Meet Mindful is.
So Meet Mindful is an app and dating website focused on a market that is interested in personal development, health, wellness, yoga, organic eating, and other mindful activities.
Keith, who lives in Boulder, Colorado, traveled to Orlando to testify about Danielle using his app. Danielle had several options to choose from for her relationship status when she signed up. Married, divorced, single. He testified that Danielle opted for separated. While listening to Keith read out loud messages that she had sent, Danielle crossed her arms and put her head down. On Friday, January 11th, the day Michael died, Danielle logged onto the app and looked at profiles for about 10 minutes at 8:37 a.m. On January 12th, she was back on the dating app before she called 911. She viewed conversations around 7:22 a.m. But on cross, Keith conceded that although Danielle may have access to the app, she was not sending or receiving messages at that time. Danielle Redlick's hair had turned from brown to almost completely gray during the 3 years that passed from her arrest in 2019 to her trial in June 2022. Her long hair was pulled up into a bun on the top of her head, and she wore a gray blazer when she took the stand. Her attorney didn't waste any time. He asked the question.
Ms. Redlick, on January 11th, 2019, did you stab your husband?
I did. Yes.
Why?
He was suffocating me. I couldn't breathe, and he had me pinned down.
Can you explain more?
I was scared, and I was just in fear for my life. He had thought he snapped, and I could die.
Why were you in fear for your life? Why did you think that you could die in that circumstance?
how he had me pinned down and I couldn't breathe. And so just the look in his eye, his anger, and I couldn't get away.
You're trying to get away?
I was.
You're trying to use something besides a weapon to get away?
Yes.
Do you have any choice but to use a weapon to get away?
No.
How many times did you stab him?
Once.
Is this the first time that your husband had ever attacked you?
No, but it was one of the worst, I'd say, scariest.
Danielle took the jury back in time. She testified about how she said the abuse started.
Through arguments, sometimes alcohol-related sort of thing. At times it would escalate. I started to notice that he would get physical when he was angry, very angry, or if he drank too much. A lot of manhandling kind of thing.
Can you describe to the jury what you mean by that?
Just grabbing me in the, by the arms a lot, sort of a controlling nature, sort of dominating. At times, slam me up against the wall, kind of stuff like that.
Were there ever times when it was more than just grabbing you?
Yes.
What was the first time that you can recall something happening that's more than just grabbing you?
Well, actually, the first time would have been back in Cleveland. There was one incident. We were coming back from a concert. I had saw an ex-boyfriend at a concert, and he was accusing me of wanting to have gone to the concert with the ex, and we sort of got into an argument about it. And I remember I made an offensive comment, which I wouldn't make today. I called him. I said at least he wasn't Jewish and cheap. And he backhanded me in the face and mouth, and my mouth started bleeding and my nose started bleeding. And we were in the car at this point. And so when I got to the red light, I wanted to get out of the car. And he grabbed me and I grabbed him back, and we kind of just went back and forth in the car. And we actually got pulled over.
Danielle said that over the years, she got a black eye and a chipped tooth. She testified that Michael took every frustration he had out on her. The violence increased, but she didn't want to walk away because there was still a lot of good in the relationship. Michael was always apologetic afterwards. She loved him. Their children were born, and they were happy sometimes. But the turmoil always returned. Michael missed out on a promotion and was miserable. He took it out on Danielle, slamming her against the wall. He scared her, she said. She went to her sisters to cool down.
Would you ever fight back physically?
I say, yeah, I would at times.
How would that go? Like, what would you do?
Pushing him, I'm probably hitting him on the chest.
The family moved across the country for Michael's career. Danielle testified he was dealing with erectile dysfunction. He had gone to a doctor and had been secretly taking Viagra for years. Danielle felt relieved in a sense. She justified his bad behavior towards her, thinking it was due to his health issues. She said she believed Michael was scared, deep down, that his younger wife was going to leave him over it. Michael started getting testosterone shots, and she said his behavior changed even more with the injections.
His behaviors just continued to, he wasn't the Mike that I met. His behaviors just were bizarre. I think I would liken it to, I thought it was like this kind of sophomore, juvenile male type behavior where he was sort of treating me like an object. But alongside that, there was a lot of aggression and it would become hostile.
Can you explain the sophomoric stuff that you're referencing?
Vulgar comments, like I'm a piece of meat, I'm an object, I'm his property. Some of it would be, I guess he would portray that it was kind of like lust or something, but to me, it wasn't appropriate, it wasn't okay. He was getting hostile and he was actually hurting me often during these episodes.
You're saying that physically would harm you?
Yes.
Is this while you're being intimate or in another
or
manner?
He's being sexually aggressive, yes. Or there were other instances where it would just come out of the blue, like perhaps I can tell things were bothering him. I can give an example. He was going to be going out of town for a work function for the week, and So he called me from work the day before and said, I'm going to bring home some movies and dinner. We're going to spend some time together tonight. And I said, okay. So he brought home dinner and alcohol. And we started watching the movie, and there was a love scene. And this happened often. I noticed he would get flustered and kind of start acting strange. And during this particular movie, he approached me, and he was aggressive. And, he was hurting me. So I moved to a separate couch, and I told him that wasn't okay. And he just continued to drink through the movie, and he passed out about halfway through. And I finished the movie. And at that point, I just went upstairs to bed. I turned everything off, and I let him know that I was going up to bed. He was snoring. I didn't wake him up, so I went up to bed. And the next morning, he had to leave, get ready to go out of town. And then he came upstairs into the bedroom, and he said, why didn't you wake me up last night?
So when he says that, how does it continue from there?
So I'm in my bathroom at that point, and I'm brushing my teeth, and we're having this conversation. And the next thing I know, something hits me in the back of the head. And I look, and there's a box of tampons on the floor. And I said, did you just hit me with that? And he said, yeah, are you calling me a PUSSY? And I said, no, what are you talking about? And he said that I had left the box of tampons on his side of the sink. What was I trying to say? And this was very strange to me. And I said, I don't know. They just happened to be there. I didn't do that on purpose. Didn't clean up the bathroom. Sorry. And I was upset. And I said, maybe you are acting like that, a PUSSY. And I walked away from him. And
how did he react when you walked away?
He said that he came up behind me and grabbed me from behind and started choking me. And I had never been choked that hard before by him.
Danielle and Michael moved to Florida in 2014. Perhaps sunshine and a less stressful career in academia might save their marriage, Danielle thought at first. But it didn't. She testified that Michael kept putting his hands on her or tried to take her pants off while she was sleeping. Once, Danielle said she went to the ER with a deep cut to her head and a mild concussion, but she said she lied to the doctor and her children about how she got hurt. Danielle testified that she joined a dating app because she no longer saw a future after years of fighting and years of reconciliation. They were both living in a state of fear, she testified. Through the app, Danielle had met a jiu-jitsu instructor who invited her to a soccer game. Michael found the messages. January 11th, 2019 had not been a good day. They had a fight the night before. Their bad feelings carried over onto the 11th. In angry, sarcastic text messages, Michael accused Danielle of seeing her supposed boyfriend when she went out to run errands. Danielle returned from her errands and took a shower in an empty house. She said while she showered, Michael appeared abruptly.
He pulls out his phone and he tells me, I don't know if he's actually doing it, that he's videotaping me, or recording me rather. And he says, I'm going to send this to you. Let me get one last look at you. I'm going to send this to your boyfriend. And he starts saying a lot of vulgar comments, threats.
Do you remember what he's saying?
Yes.
And how did that affect you hearing what he had to say?
Distressed, afraid, distressed, worried, nervous.
What was he saying?
He was saying vulgar things. I hope he F's the shit out of you and then beat your face in, and then I'm going to beat both your faces in. How about that? And things like that. He's going to send them the pictures. And
that's a comment that he made in the bathroom at that point?
Yes.
How do we continue from there?
He finally relents, and I'm grabbing for towels, and he finally relents and walks out of the bathroom, and I'm able to, get out of the bathroom, shower.
She said he started following her around the house, still harassing her with the same type of comments. Their son had a football game that day, so she started packing a bag for him. She said she even hid in her son's closet for about 10 minutes, so Michael would leave her alone.
At some point, does Michael find you?
Yes.
How was the experience at that point?
I had my phone with me in the closet, and he saw that I had my phone. He tries to take my phone from me. He does take my phone.
Okay. And what happens at that point?
At that point, it's 7:00. They've got to get ready and to go to the game. And he's yelling at my son to get his uniform on. In the meantime, he takes my phone and walks out the front door with it.
What do? Do you follow him?
Yes.
And what happens at the front door?
I follow him. I said, Mike, I need my phone. Give me my phone. And he's refusing. And he says, no, I'll just take it with me, throw it in the lake if I feel like it. So I'm desperate for my phone. I run back into the house
So when you run back into the house, what do you do at this point?
I grab some eggs and I bring them out to the front and throw them at his car.
Why?
Because I want my phone.
She said that got his attention, and he opened the door and started coming towards her, upset. But just then, their son walked out.
What is in your mind? What do you believe is about to happen?
He could hit me at that point. He was charging toward me. I don't know what he was going to do.
Was there any physical interaction right then?
No.
With tensions high, Danielle and Michael went to their son's football game at 8 p.m. Their kids both spent the night with friends, so after the game, Danielle and Michael were alone together in the house.
I was sitting in the breakfast nook area, and when he came in, he went into the kitchen and took out his bottle of vodka, poured a drink, standing at the counter, facing me, just staring at me.
Okay. What are you doing?
Staring at him. And he says, aren't you afraid to be home alone with me tonight without the kids?
Can you repeat that?
He says, aren't you afraid to be home alone with me without the kids?
When you hear that comment, what goes into your mind?
Here we go. And I said, actually, as a matter of fact, yes. We're going to have to go back to our old arrangements then.
By old arrangements, what do you mean?
Living separately.
How does he respond to that?
He's just staring at me. He's not really saying anything at that point. And then I make a comment that he looks really crazy and disturbing.
Danielle said she left the house to go get fast food. Police later found the McDonald's bag in the garbage can, along with a receipt. She also bought wine from a drugstore. When she returned home, she said she sat down with her food. Michael looked like he had been drinking, she said. He was red in the face. She testified that Michael snatched her phone again. He grabbed her sandwich and then spit the food at her, and again brought up her messages with the other man. Danielle said she responded defiantly that yes, maybe she would go out with this new man after all. That's when Michael grabbed her, she said. She tripped and fell on the ground. Then she felt something hit her in the back of the head.
How were you positioned then at that point?
I was on my knees, so as I was coming up, he grabbed me by the collar, and I felt our heads collide. And at that point, I grabbed the center island and I reach up to pull myself up to face him this way. And that's when he takes his right hand, so he grabs me here and slams me down onto the center island counter.
So he's grabbed your hair?
Grab me, yes.
Was your hair up like it is today, or was it down at that point? So he's grabbed your hair and has slammed it onto the island here?
Yes.
He asked her what was going through her mind at that point. She said she was scared. She said he had a severe, angry look on his face. She couldn't remember everything that was said, but as he held her head down on the counter, he called her a bitch. She demonstrated for the jury how he grabbed her, pinned her, and smashed her head down. He's got me pinned and I can't move and I'm trying to wiggle out, she testified. Danielle couldn't talk, let alone breathe, with Michael's body pressed against her. She said he stood above her and held her down. She was trapped against the kitchen island.
When you realize that you're not able to breathe, what's in your mind at that point?
That he snapped and that he's probably going to kill me.
Why do you believe that?
Well, because I couldn't breathe and I was starting to freak out at that point and he wasn't stopping.
She said she reached with her hand and felt a drawer with ladles, knives, and kitchen tools inside. She found a knife and pulled it up.
What's Michael doing at this point? Is he still holding you down?
He's holding me down.
Are you still trapped?
Yes.
You find the knife. You're able to open the drawer?
Yes.
You're able to grab the knife?
Pull it out, yes.
How does it continue from there?
Pulled the knife out, and I don't know if he saw it, but he released my head, so I'm able to move.
Okay. How do you position? So you said that you're able to move a little bit. What position do you go into?
Slightly more to the left, turning toward him.
Does he back away from you?
No.
Go ahead.
He says, "What, are you going to stab me?" And I take the knife and I position it and face it toward him. He's not phased. And again, he's still on top of me and proceeds to push my head back again.
She said Michael was unfazed that she now had a weapon. As he was still on top of her and proceeded to push her head back again, she turned the knife to face him. And that's when she said she did it. She stabbed him once.
At the time you have the knife and you stab him with it, what are you trying to do? What is your goal here in your mind?
To get away from him.
Why? If you don't do that, what is your belief that will happen?
That he might smother me to death. Whatever he was going to do to me.
She said she managed to free herself.
What do you do at that point?
I run. I run the opposite direction. I thought he was still coming after me.
So what does he do? When the knife goes into his body, when you stab him, what is his reaction?
He backs away at that point, and sort of backs away this way, and I ran the opposite direction.
She testified that she must have dropped the knife. Afterwards, she said she ran into the bathroom closet and locked the door. She sat against the wall and was just hoping and praying he wasn't going to come in there, and also thinking to herself, what am I going to do? This is crazy. I got to get out of here, she said. Then she heard Michael yelling her name. She couldn't make out his words very clearly.
When you stabbed him, what was your belief at the time of the wound that you had inflicted? Did you believe that you had killed him?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay. Speak to that, please.
I just didn't think it was a fatal exchange. Like I said, I thought he was coming after me still. I thought it probably made him madder, if anything. I didn't even know that. I knew he'd probably be hurt, but I didn't think it was to an extent that he would be, die from it or something.
She said she heard his voice get closer at some point, but he never came into the closet. She hid there for at least 15 minutes until she worked up the nerve to leave. The house was silent. Walking out, she saw blood in the bathroom and the bedroom.
How would you describe your emotional state at that point?
I'm just upset and I'm startled and, I'm kind of worried at that point. I see blood.
So what do you do?
I follow the blood.
Where does it lead?
Into the living room.
Do you go into the living room?
Yes.
And when you go in, what do you see?
I see my husband sprawled out on the floor.
He wasn't moving. She said she yelled his name, but he didn't answer. She tried again. Again, he didn't answer. She got down on her knees and touched his face. No response. She lifted up his shirt and could see the wound in his shoulder. She pushed on it, and a lot of blood came out.
What do you do then? You said you push on it. What are you trying to do?
I just was assessing it, looking at it, investigating it for a second. And I see a lot of blood come out. And my thought was, did this kill him or did he have a heart attack? I didn't know what was going on.
Danielle testified that she tried calling 911 after she found where Michael left her phone. She explained how she had dialed 911 twice, and so the call actually failed.
I grabbed my phone, and I just, in my mind, I'm calling 911. However, I'm looking at him, and I just start thinking, I start crying and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, well, can I help him? And I start.
Try to help him?
Yes.
How so?
I start breathing into his mouth, like trying to resuscitate him. And I'm doing that and I'm getting nothing. I don't know what I'm doing either.
Do you hear anything or see anything, any movement, any reaction, anything at all from him?
No, I don't. Other than what I hear myself doing, I don't hear anything.
So what happens after that?
So at that point, I turned to my phone and I did dial 911. And I think my thoughts were racing at that point. I don't know how coherent they were, and I guess I dialed 911 twice, and so it didn't connect. And at that point, I just went into like a full-blown shock.
She said she started to panic. There was blood everywhere. She grabbed some towels out of the linen closet and started to try and clean it up. She also deleted the text messages the other man had sent her.
I think I just made a series of really bad decisions at that point.
You called 911 again that night?
I did not.
On cross, the prosecutor, Assistant State Attorney Sean Wiggins, asked why Danielle didn't do more to save Michael's life. He described Michael lying on the ground, not moving and bleeding after he had been stabbed.
Looking down on him unresponsive.
Yes.
Having seen that wound and pressed on that wound and seen the blood flow, yes?
Yes.
And you realize this is serious.
Yes.
And you think to yourself, I should call 911 because he needs help, correct?
Yes.
He needs professionals to come in and try to save his life.
I don't believe that he was dead at that point.
You didn't believe he was dead?
You said I believe he was dead, yes.
So you did CPR on a dead man?
At that moment, I was hoping that he wasn't.
Okay, so you thought there was a chance that this man could still be saved. Because otherwise you wouldn't have done CPR, right?
Yes.
So you're standing there, you have your phone in your hand. No, I think this man could be saved. And the best way of saving him is to dial 911, correct, Ms. Redlick?
Yes.
You mentioned on direct that you had no business doing CPR, did you not?
Yes, I'm not trained.
You're not trained. You have no idea how to do CPR.
No.
He said instead of dialing the correct 911 number, she did amateur CPR, and she didn't know what she was doing.
So you stood in that home with the power to call for help, and you let your husband bleed to death on that floor.
He had already bled to death. When I was doing the blowing into his mouth, I was wondering if I could recover him or something. I didn't.
So which is it?
And I thought there.
Objection. Can she answer the question?
So
Hold on. Stop. Let her finish the question. You said, Ms. Redlick, I was wondering if I could recover him or something. I didn't. And Mr. Wiggins, your question was, so which one is it? That's the last question.
Which one is it? Is he dead, or you think it's possible to save him?
Well, if he could be recovered, something would have to be done immediately. And so, yes, I thought perhaps I should do that.
So are you telling this jury that you thought it was impossible to both dial 911 and do CPR?
No, it's not impossible. No.
So you could have done it?
Yes.
And you chose not to?
I dialed 911 right after that.
No. In that moment, you chose not to.
Right.
So in these fleeting moments, you think Mr. Redlick can be saved. You choose not to save him.
I wouldn't put it that way, no.
He pointed out that she knew her attempted 911 call didn't go through. She agreed that she also knew he was dead at that time.
And it's at this point you begin to clean up the scene.
Yes, somewhat.
So the cleaning effort starts very shortly after you realize Mr. Redlick is dead.
Yes.
You had your phone in the 11 o'clock hour, correct?
Yes.
You're using your phone in the 11 o'clock hour.
I think I had my phone, yes.
Well, you were using your phone in the 11 o'clock hour.
I don't know that I was using it.
Well, what hour do you think you started deleting text messages?
I guess it was between 11 and 12 or something like that.
So 11 o'clock hour, you're beginning to delete stuff from your phone, correct?
Or midnight hour. I'm not sure.
She agreed that she probably cleaned for the next hour or so. He pointed out that she still didn't call 911.
You would have this jury believe that you fell asleep next to your dead husband.
Yes, eventually.
And that would have been in the 1 o'clock hour, correct?
Don't know exactly when I fell asleep.
Could have been later than 1 o'clock?
Don't know.
You believe you woke up at 7 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
And you wake up at 7, you still have your phone?
Yes.
It's still working?
Yes.
And you begin sort of, at this point now, we know, picking up towels and sort of tidying things up some more.
I don't know if I did it right at that moment.
Okay. Could have been a little later.
Yeah.
At some point, Ms. Redlick, you turned the focus from cleaning the house to cleaning yourself, correct?
I think I rinsed my hands a couple times, yes.
So you went in the shower and you were cleaning blood off yourself?
No, I was near the linen closet at that point. I do remember touching that handle. I think I attempted to, I don't know if I actually turned it on or not, but I was thinking about washing my hand under the shower head at that point as I was.
Went over to the sink and tried to wash yourself up?
I might have washed my hands there, yes.
Was this in the morning or in the evening?
I don't remember.
Clean yourself more than once?
I don't remember. I didn't clean myself up very much at all.
The next morning, Danielle Googled how to slit her own wrists. Wiggins reminded her again she didn't call 911 until 11 hours after what had happened.
Ms. Redlick, you've had nearly half a day to figure out what to say, correct?
Yes.
And you are standing in the home with that man in that position when you finally pick up the phone, correct?
Yes.
And you know he's dead. There's no question. You know he's dead.
Yes.
The jury heard the 911 call that Danielle made where she said, "I think my husband is deceased." Wiggins told her that was a lie because she knew he was dead. She said that may have been an excited utterance or a figure of speech.
You were asked why, and you say he's stiff, he's wounded, he might have had a heart attack. I don't know. You heard yourself say that, right? You did not believe that your husband had a heart attack, Ms. Redlick.
Actually, I did. I was hoping, too.
You were hoping?
Not in the morbid sense that I wanted him dead, but he had heart problems, and I thought with all of that excitement that perhaps he did.
So because if he had a heart attack, you wouldn't have been responsible for his death.
Yes. To an extent.
But you knew he hadn't had a heart attack. You knew it.
Objection asked and answered.
I could not completely rule that out.
Standing there, having mopped up all that blood, taking all these towels that are stuffed in the bag, and soaked them through with Michael's blood. You thought that it was possible he had died of a heart attack.
Thought there was a possibility. It was very quick, and I just wasn't.
Wiggins played the audio recording that you heard in part 1, where Danielle adamantly denies killing her husband when the detective reads a search warrant to her.
Ms. Redlick, you just heard yourself tell Detective Ware that you did not murder your husband. You heard that?
Yes.
You were lying to her when you told her that, correct?
I stabbed my husband. I don't consider it. Wasn't considering that murder.
Oh, so what you were trying to get across is that you acted in self-defense in this passage.
Yes, I wasn't trying to get it across, but yes.
That's what you thought you were communicating.
No, I didn't think I was communicating that necessarily.
No, because actually what you say right after that is, why would you want my DNA? Was it for the saliva, for the resuscitation? That's what you say next, correct?
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Or...
You were trying to give the impression that the only reason that your DNA would be on Mr. Redlick is because you tried to save him. That's the impression you were trying to give.
I wasn't trying to give any impressions. I was trying to get some impressions. I was curious as to what was happening.
You were trying to throw her off the scent, possibly.
Do what now?
You were trying to throw her off the scent. You were trying to give her the impression that you were not involved in this crime, correct?
I don't know if I was trying to give her any impression. I just hadn't been able to tell my story.
He accused her of being willing to lie if it serves her interests. She said no.
The lie was serving your interests. You admit that?
Yes.
So you were willing to lie if it serves your interests?
Yes.
The prosecutor's final point during cross-examination, Danielle had said, "It doesn't look good for me," to the 911 dispatcher as first responders arrived at her house. "That's the truth, Miss Redlick," he said. And with that, he ended his cross-examination. In his closing, prosecutor Sean Wiggins began by reading an email Danielle had sent to Michael about 8 months prior to his death.
She writes, "I just want to be happy now. I made up my mind. That is what I need to commit to. Not a person or a marriage, but my own true happiness. What a concept I know. I think some of us have this subconscious belief deep down that we don't deserve to be happy, or that we don't get to be happy until we have suffered or bled to death first. Well, I think I might be one of those people, and as logical as the previous statement is, I have suffered, even bled to death."
He told the jury that Danielle took a knife and plunged it into Michael's body. Then, as he lay bleeding on the floor, dying, she didn't help him.
This defendant told you that at some point before 10:50 that evening, that she stood over Michael. She stood over Michael with her phone in one hand and a thought in her head. She told you that she thought it was possible that Michael could be saved, because she wouldn't do CPR on someone she thought was dead. And in that moment, Danielle Redlick had a choice. She had a choice to call 911 and get emergency help personnel to that residence, or she could do what she did, which was perform amateur CPR. She is standing over him with the power to help. She chooses in that moment to let Michael Redlick bleed to death.
He then asked the jury why she would do that. He said it's because she intended to kill Michael. As for trying to slit her wrists, he said she did that because she didn't want to have to answer for what she had done. He said she only dialed 911 to get help for herself, because she was then injured. And he pointed out that in addition to second-degree murder, Danielle was also facing a tampering with evidence charge. She cleaned the house because she knew a police investigation was inevitable, he said.
In addition to just obliterating all of that blood evidence inside the house and doing quite a thorough job in the kitchen, she begins to delete text messages. And that continues to tell you what this defendant is doing and what she is guilty of. And how everything that's happened since the moment that she's put that knife inside of Michael is to avoid responsibility for her actions. She can't explain why she deletes those messages. but it certainly makes her guilty of tampering under the law.
When it was their turn, Danielle's attorney, Andrew Parnell, reminded the jury that Michael had pursued his former stepdaughter. He always had authority and saw Danielle as his possession. He was the one in control, he said. When Michael felt insecure about his body or had frustrations at work, he was violent towards Danielle. The point isn't to say he's a bad guy, he had it coming, he said. The purpose of this testimony was to show his violence, aggression, and rage bottled up once again on January 11th, 2019. He said that night, Danielle believed Michael was going to kill her in their kitchen. He was suffocating her, pressing her up against the kitchen island, and putting his hands on her face. He said Michael had been the aggressor that night because he found out that Danielle, who he was trying to reconcile with, had betrayed him by talking to another man online. He told the jury Michael had a blood alcohol content of 0.09 from the autopsy.
No matter what their relationship was, no matter if she wanted to continue in the marriage, no matter if she wanted to divorce him, believe the state, no matter if she hated him and wanted to kill him. The last time she had seen her husband was in the kitchen. He's got her held down. She stabs him one time with that knife. She runs away from him. She hears him come to the bathroom door, leave. She comes out. He's lying on the ground, not moving. It's going to be a jarring situation for anybody. Why, when she walked out of the bathroom, don't believe me, from the autopsy report, from the doctor, the medical examiner, you heard Mr. Wiggins agree. Who would think that that wound is going to kill somebody? Stabbing somebody a single time on a shoulder. She didn't stab him 5 times, 10 times. She didn't shoot somebody one time to get away. She comes back out. He's on the floor, not moving. So she panics. She runs over to him. She attempts to do CPR. She says she couldn't find her phone at that point.
He said there was another reason why Danielle didn't call 911 right away.
Everybody processes trauma differently. Walking out, finding her husband laying on the ground in a pool of blood, running to him, trying to see if he's breathing, trying to find anything. I asked her several times, is he moving at all? No. Does he have any reaction to anything that you're doing? No, he doesn't. Are you hearing any breathing? No. She calls 911. It doesn't go through. 911. After that, she panics. The weight of the situation is making itself clear. Her husband, the person who has been in her life for 20 years, is the primary figure, the authority figure, the always present figure there, the father of her children, is now dead. No more. He's done. There will not be any more Michael Redlick. And she experiences that and realizes that in that moment. Understanding the trauma that she experiences right there, understanding the reaction that that has to her, understanding what that does to a person, regardless of what led up to it, regardless of the feelings they may have had for that person at the time. It's pretty heavy.
In those 11 hours it took for Danielle to finally call 911, he pointed out that she didn't hide the knife or get rid of her husband's phone. She didn't run away or hide. She never Googled how to dispose of a body or anything like that.
She saw the sudden, cold end to a tumultuous marriage laying on the ground, and she couldn't process it. And then her actions afterwards proved that.
The jury began deliberating on whether Danielle committed second-degree murder, or if they opted, the lesser degree of manslaughter, which means she had been involved in an act that killed her husband, but she hadn't done it intentionally. They deliberated for about 4 hours, spread over 2 days. Danielle closed her eyes in the courtroom when the verdict was read out loud. Count 1 was the murder charge.
State of Florida versus Danielle Justine Redlick. Verdict as to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty
Danielle was found not guilty on the most serious charge of second-degree murder, although she had been found guilty on the lesser charge of tampering with evidence. She took a deep breath and bowed her head. Her attorney rubbed her back. Her face seemed like a roller coaster of emotions. She smiled for a moment. She folded her hands and rubbed her face. She teared up. At some points, she looked stone-faced. "Thank you," she whispered to the jury. She was soon released from the Orange County Jail after spending 3 years behind bars. On August 5th, 2022, she returned to court for her sentencing on the evidence tampering conviction. Danielle and Michael's daughter wrote a victim impact statement that her guardian read out loud in front of the judge. It read, quote, "The only reason I am not personally reading this statement is because I simply do not ever want to be in a room with Danielle, ever again. I refuse to call her mother because she was never a decent mother figure to me." She also wrote that she wanted justice for her father. "My dad was no angel and definitely had flaws, but he was so kind, gentle, and he never laid a hand on a single person in my family." She asked that Danielle be permanently prohibited from contacting her and her younger brother, a request the judge was unwilling to grant. According to the Orlando Sentinel, Danielle sobbed in court while listening to her daughter's words. The judge ordered Danielle to serve a year in jail, but she credited her for already having served that time. That meant Danielle was not going back behind bars. She was sentenced to 1 year of probation. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. You can let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram @CourtJunkie, by tweeting me @CourtJunkiePod, or by emailing me at podcast@CourtJunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. To hear these episodes without the ads, check out my Patreon options at CourtJunkie.com/support. There are also some bonus episodes and additional content on there as well. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.